Hey guys, it's Andrew Ballard, and this is my video for CET 111's final project, instructor Mr. Adami. And today we're going to talk about RAM. We're going to talk about memory. We'll talk about my memory. Got the Dominator Platinum 16 gigabytes. That is DDR3. And basically we're just going to take a look at how it's supposed to fit inside your motherboard properly, in order to ensure that everything's working properly. And if you ever needed to add any, you would use these steps. Or if you needed to replace it, you would just simply take out the existing memory and put it in the way I'm about to show you how to do. So, without further ado, let us shut my computer down for one. Step 1, turn off the electrical device. Okay, now that that's off, I'm going to go ahead and unplug the power supply. Open up my case here. Now it's a very large case, so normally when you're working with RAM or really any components on top of your motherboard, the ideal way that you want to have the motherboard sitting, let me make sure I got some light in here too. Kind of having to, yeah. You would want your motherboard to be sitting flat. You would just take the case and sit it on its side. That way you can easily see what you're doing. However, my case is very large and very heavy, and I don't really want to tilt it over. But just to ensure safety, I'm going to take an anti-static wrist strap. I'm going to go ahead and use that if you give me one moment. And clip the other end onto something metal, which my case is metal, so I'm just going to put it right there. There's the existing memory. I've got 2 sticks, and normally on most motherboards you'd see black and you'd see blue. You'd see black, blue, black, blue. In my case I see red, black, just because the motherboard is red and black. But you'll see there's white notches on either side that you can pretty much push outwards to kind of release the RAM, and you can just simply pull it out. There it is. There's one stick. It's 8 gigabytes. And do the same exact thing. Move the notches outwards. Go ahead and pull that RAM out. Okay, now if we're looking at it this way, let's say this is flat and we're about to fit it inside the motherboard. One thing you don't want to do is to have it tilted, and you don't want to try to wedge it in that way. You want it to go directly on top of it. Alright, you can actually see that this end right here is much longer than the top end of it. That is basically to ensure it only fits inside your motherboard one way. And if you try to fit it in any other way, you're going to break something. You'll see that small little notch right there. It's a little groove, and it is actually on the motherboard itself. You'll see that little, let's see, I'll point to it. Right there. So that's it, to ensure it only fits on one way. So let's go ahead and do that. Put it right back on side. I'm doing this sideways, but the easiest way to do it, go ahead and fit it inside on the top end of it and the bottom end of it. And if it's on, if you're doing it flat, try to take the middle of it, the middle of the RAM, and just push directly on top of the motherboard until you hear the clicks that we just heard. Click, click. And we'll do the other RAM the exact same way. And having 2 sticks, normally you would maybe just see 1 stick of RAM in most cases, unless you're a heavy gamer like me. But when you have 2, that is basically turning it into dual channel mode, which just increases the bandwidth going to your processor, and it makes everything much faster. So I think we're good. I heard 2 clicks, So let's crank her up and we'll check system properties and make sure that it's reading the 16 gigabytes of RAM. And don't forget to put the power back on. And we'll see right now if I fitted it on properly, then this should work. Show me the money. And it looks like we're good. Now, also another thing that I actually ran into, depending on what you're doing, if you're building a computer, if you're working on a computer, let's say you're building a computer, you're coming up with specs and you found a motherboard you like, and then you might ask, alright, well what kind of RAM do I want? Well, before you even begin to think about choosing RAM, you're going to want to go to the qualified vendors list. So the simple way to do that is to just Google your motherboard name, and then right after just type QVL, or just go ahead and spell it out, qualified vendors list, and you'll find lots of PDFs, or maybe from the manufacturer's website. In my case it's ASUS, and it'll give you a list of memory that is compatible with your motherboard. Also, another thing that I didn't mention, and it is sometimes squirrely, but you might ask when you're building your PC, and you might ask, what slots should I be using for, like, let's say you had 2 sticks of RAM like I did. Should I fit them in the red or should I fit them in the black? Always check your motherboard's user manual for that information, because it is definitely in there. And let's check out, if it's not too blurry, system specs. There's Windows 8, and there it reads installed memory RAM 16 gigabytes. It's a little blurry, but there it is right there. Alright guys, thank you for watching.